Everyone, and welcome to the G Factor with Glennis. I'm your host, Glennis Gassman, and today's guest is Paul Moehring. Paul is a business growth coach, and he is a best-selling author of a book called Get Squared, Goal Getting with Balance. Sounds very interesting. We're going to be talking about that today with Paul. He's also developed a business coaching program that grows profits, systems with team engagement, balance, and sustainability. Lots and lots to unpack and talk about today. Welcome, Paul. How are you?
I'm doing well, Glennis, and I love your accent. Although I can't tell you, I'm not very good at telling the difference, and this will be an insult. I apologize. I'm not very good at telling the difference between a British accent and an Australian accent, but I think if I listen to you enough, I'll get used to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you may hear a little bit of Kiwi twang in there as well.
Oh,
Because I'm from New Zealand, but I don't say chips anymore. I say chips.
nice.
Fish and chips, not fish and chops. Anyway, for all the New Zealanders listening today, I love New Zealand and the All Blacks. So I love New Zealand as my hometown. But I've been in Australia for 40 years now. So yeah, it's there's still some of those words that come through, Paul. But look, Paul, you're from Arizona. Tell us a little bit about what is Arizona famous for?
Arizona is famous for their gorgeous winters.
Wow.
So I grew up in the Midwest, and we had gorgeous summers. They were just too short. And then when you got into the winter season, it was winter. And there
Yeah.
was no such thing as golfing outside when it was 15 below zero. However, in Arizona during our summer, when it's going to be 115 degrees, you can still golf at 5:30 in the morning.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's good. But you would be a bit hot during the day. You'd stop by about 10 o'clock or something. Is that right?
Try to, yeah.
Yeah,
Unless,
yeah.
unless you're
Got
ahead and you could win a little more money, then you'll finish out the round.
it. Lovely. So look, Paul, you have a lot of areas of expertise around bridging the gap between setting goals and actually bringing those goals into reality for business owners. And we're going to I want to discuss all that today with you. But first, that S at the beginning of your name actually is quite intriguing. So I'd just like you to share with me and our listeners, what does that S mean?
Yeah, well, it's a good question. And I have to put in the disclaimer from my mother. She says the S does not stand for saint. Even though I try to pull it off a few times, she says, no, it does not stand for saint. Actually, my first name is Samuel, and I have an older sister named Tammy. So it became Sammy and Tammy. And when my mom was trying to get in touch with one of us, I would always ignore the call and say, I thought you were talking about Tammy. So then they started calling me Paul.
I got it. And you like Paul, yeah?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
still have, there's probably a couple dozen people that call me Sam.
Now, do you ever get S Paul?
Every once in a while, somebody will ask me, should I call you S? And I just kind of chuckle to myself because I know a lot of people that have a first initial, but I've never thought to ask them if I should call them by their first initial. It's kind of a rarity.
Yeah, I know. I actually have a little bit of that with my name because it's long and there's a lot of G's in it. So, my friends and everyone just call me Gigi. And it started as G and G, but now it's been changed to GI, almost. And then my husband brought me some personalized number plates and it's GI. And it's like, okay, everyone knows who's in that car now. But yeah, I go by Gigi. It's a lot easier to pronounce and get out there anyway. So
Nice.
that's great. Well, it's really great. Being on the show, I know you got a lot to offer, and I do want to talk about firstly your book. Get Squared, Goal Setting with Balance. What inspired you to write that?
Well, for several years, I was in the sales management arena. And when I would go out and I would work with my business owners, it started to sound like a broken record when we would try to get together to set goals for the year. And I had always had kind of a servant leadership type of an attitude. And I believe very strongly in what Zig Ziglar said over and over and over again, which was, if you can help enough other people get what they want, then you'll get what you want.
So
And
true.
I decided, if I can help these business owners set goals, not just in business, but in their personal lives, and get things balanced, then they'll have a better go at their goals. And sure enough, once we started to institute that, a few things happened. First of all, they started getting their goals. Secondly, they were more balanced. And those two things together are joy to a person that's in business, right? Because you can set really aggressive business goals, and then you burn yourself up in 6 weeks. You've destroyed your family life. You have no personal life. You've gained 20 pounds. Everything just kind of goes to heck. So
Yeah.
what we found is that if we keep them in track of all these different categories, it was helpful. So I thought, once COVID hit and it slowed down my networking schedule, I thought, what a perfect time to get that book completed and get it out there to be published.
Yeah, absolutely. And I haven't read it. I met fully. I haven't read it yet. But I have flicked through it. I know you've got a few sporting analogies in there. Yeah.
Just
So
a couple.
what's your favorite sport about that? Maybe, have you got a favorite sport? I know you did say golf before, but yeah.
Sure. Well, part of it's about what I could participate in. My favorite sport is still football.
Right.
So I love the Arizona Cardinals because I've lived here for half of my life. I also love the Minnesota Vikings because I lived in Minnesota for half of my life. So when the two teams come up against each other, I root for the team that has the better record, because I want whoever, I don't care which one of the two, go to the playoffs, maybe get to the Super Bowl and win one for me, because I have never had a team win the Super Bowl. The Vikings lost it 4 times. The Cardinals here in Arizona lost it once. So I would love to see those teams win.
It's funny over here, like I'm not sure if you follow any level of sport over here in Australia, New Zealand, but if you've heard of the All Blacks, that's a rugby union team. They're the best in the world. And so whenever Australia plays New Zealand in rugby union, I'm an All Black supporter. But then they play league here as well. And of course, I'm local to the Queensland side. And now Queensland's got 3 sides, so we've got a bit of a peak between who we follow, So I know exactly what you're saying there about just one team win. You don't care what side, just be on one team. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
So, that particular sport, so you're golfing and your football, you love football, that sort of thing. But what did really inspired you to write that book? What really gave you I know it was COVID, slowed you down, but, you must have had some level of, there must have been some people out there that you saw time and time and time again, burnout, you mentioned, like ruining their family lives, that sort of thing, because, my why is all about reducing business value rate. And because that impacts families, addiction, depression, anxiety, self-destruction with kids, like everything is all in there. So if I can help any business owner increase the amount of cash flow and profits they get, then, because, most relationships don't break up with lack of love, it's lack of money, right? So for me, that's why I do what I do. That pulls me out of bed at 5 o'clock in the morning, right? In the winter. All right. So it takes something to write a book. It does.
It does. And the interesting thing, I'll give a buddy of mine some props. His name is Jeff Hastings, and he wrote a book about 15 years ago. And I was in a mentor group with him, sharing group, and he brought his book. And I said, "What? You wrote a book? I've always wanted to write a book. Oh my goodness, you beat me to the punch." Oh my God, here we are 15 years later, and I still hadn't started my book. Now, I had started outlines, and I have probably 10 to 15 outlines of books that I've started. And when I picked this one, I thought it could have the biggest impact, the quickest, especially with the people that I was working with. Yeah. In addition to that, I made it a pretty short book, because I know that a lot of my sales reps would look at a thick book and say, "Wow, that's going to look great on my coffee table for the next 3 years before I put it in a closet." Right? So I wanted them to be able to get through the book quickly. The book actually takes them from goal setting 101 to goal getting 400 level or master's level. It really takes them from being a beginner to an expert in a very short period of steps that they would take. And the biggest reason, when you think about what you just mentioned about destroying lives and making, that business taking down their personal lives, this forces them to take the categories for setting goals and putting them in the order of importance. And the 4 categories are business, personal, spiritual, and family. And we have them put each one of those in its place. Now, if you can imagine, there's 4 blocks. We have them take the first 2 important ones and put them up front, just like they're the front wheels of their car. And if you're driving on a 2-lane road, 65, 70 miles per hour, and there's oncoming traffic, the last tire that you want to blow is your left front tire, because if it blows, it's going to pull you into oncoming traffic where likely there's going to be something fatal that occurs. And then the right front tire is equally as important, because if that one blows, it's going to pull you to the right side of the road. You catch a little gravel, your car rolls 3-4 times, lights out there as well. So once we get them to put them in priority order, then we get them to write some goals in each one of those categories.
Sounds great. Sounds like a real practical book. So how long do you think the read is? I know you said it's not a big book or anything like that, but how long do you reckon the read is?
Hour 15, hour 30 with interruptions and a couple of snoozes.
Oh my God, that's so great.
It is,
like a rocket book. It
is. It really is.
So tell us a little bit about Paul, the business growth coach.
Yeah, well, I made my transition out of my sales management position into coaching in January of 2020. The stars aligned, the messages jived. It was time. The bag of hammers was dropping to say jump. And so I jumped. And the neat thing is that in 2013, I had gone to a coaching certification program put on by the E-Myth. The E-Myth is a book written by Michael Gerber, and then he had founded a coaching business from there. So I went through that certification process and then used those tools over the next 7 years to get ready for what I wanted to do. What I wanted to do is I wanted to concentrate more time on coaching people. When you get into a sales management position, you're coaching people, but you're also doing 98,000 other things. So I figured I could spend about 5% of my time coaching, and the other 95%, I better be doing these other things, or the job was going to catch up, And so I just wanted to spend more time coaching, making a difference, and then starting something for myself from scratch. And this coaching business does all of that. Having a published book and having it go bestseller on the Amazon list. I mean, I probably look like a little kid. I feel like a little kid. It's just
Cheshire Cat. It's really great. It's awesome.
And then every once in a while, somebody will call me and say, "Hey, I just bought 25 of your books. I just thought I'd let you know I bought it for all my sales reps. They love the book. It's great." And and then I've done some one-on a few, small groups where I'll actually walk them through the book like a book club piece, but also making sure that they do the activities, because the way that you get to a expert level goal setting goal getter is by following the steps in the process.
Yeah. And it's pretty much the same with anything, isn't it? Around the coaching arena, it's like we can all do the thinking and we can create the strategies, but it's actually taking the steps and taking the actions that are going to get you the result. So, I totally get that. And it's so great to see you following your passion, but I love seeing, people follow their passions, because they do get that smile, that grateful feeling from actually following your passion and making a difference out there. When you had those phone calls from the salespeople, saying, "Hey, I've got 25 of your books and we're all doing it." Like, that was me, it would be going, "Oh my God," it really was worth me sitting down and putting that pen to paper. And I so resonate with you about the outlines of the books. I have about 6 in progress at the moment.
I love
and
that.
I know, but it's just like one of those things. You got to wait until something, you've got a little bit of block of time, or you've got to create that time for yourself, and just finish it and get it done and finish it. I know when COVID hit for us over here, which was about March 2019, my go-to was running webinars. So I ran webinars every week around, just listening to what business owners were going through. And it was really just a listening webinar, but I threw in a little bit of strategic marketing messaging and online, and just taking away any obstacles and fears around operating online so that they could pivot their business if they needed to. And that tended to give me my gratitude, because I was helping people online straight away in something, rather than, like the thought of me sitting down writing a book. I actually just needed to get out there and make a difference right on camera straight away. But I take my hat off to anyone who writes a book, because it does take something to get that out. And it'll only be a bestseller on Amazon, which is really cool. So good for you. I acknowledge you for that. Hey, Paul, what do you like about coaching? What do you like most about coaching?
Finding those aha moments, getting to experience those aha moments, the high five moments, the, oh my gosh, I never thought about it this way. Things like, that really worked. Maybe that was a discussion that we had and we came up with a solution, and they almost were like, well, I guess I'll try it. I don't know. And it actually works. Those are really great to me. And that was, like I mentioned, what I loved about my other position. I remember I had a sales rep going out for his first sales call, and I felt like a dad waiting for his daughter to come home from prom. This agent was out till like, he had a 9 o'clock appointment. I mean, he was supposed to be done by 9 o'clock, and the drive back to the office. I knew he had to come back to the office to pick up his stuff, and I couldn't go home. I had to wait for him to get there. And then I asked him how the sale went, and he said he made the sale, and he was excited. And just that energy turns me up a notch. So I love seeing those aha moments where they have the epiphany, they have the new finding, and then they get to enjoy that. They get to enjoy it and enjoy it in their success.
Yeah, no, I love it. And, what's your ultimate goal when you're actually helping clients? Like, what is it that you're wanting to see for them? With your clients. Like for me, when I take on a coaching client, they have to have, something that's going to be outside of them of why they're wanting to do this, because I find that if it's all about just driving the profits or driving the cash flow, you can burn out. You get sick of taking those actions and doing that day in, day out to get that, because we all know what that takes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I listen for whatever, the higher purpose, so that I know that that particular client has something outside of them that they want to make a difference with, because that's what will drive people more so than just taking actions, right? So what is it? What's your ultimate goal that relates to you and helping your business coaching clients?
Yeah, well, I think you mentioned it pretty well there. You're looking for that individual piece that's going to drive that person. And then we'll take whatever that passion is, and it could be anything. It could be, I really want to put myself in a better position for retirement. Okay, that's one goal. I really want to put this business at a level where I can pass it down to the next generation. That's another goal. Sometimes they've got things at home. I really want to be able to help my kids through college. I got a late start here. I don't know what to do. Let's boost this business up. It's usually about growth of that business with balance, because so many times they're doing well, but they're getting burnt out by the business, and they're doing all the jobs themselves. They're not building systems so that they can have other people pick up on those jobs and take off. And when they do give other people jobs, they're looking over their shoulder the entire time, which doesn't save them an ounce or a minute of time. So we help them focus on some kind of growth, and then we'll transfer the passion from whatever it is. I remember when we were going through the birth classes, I went through the first birth classes with my wife, and I remember they said, okay, take a picture of something and have it ready, have it in your little notebook, so that when you're going through that pain of childbirth, you could look at this picture and say, this is why I'm doing it. I'm transferring my passion to this pain so that I can get through it. And so we do a lot of work on transferring that passion. Their most important goals may be something completely outside of work. So how are they going to free up time to do that? Well, you free up time by getting the right systems in place and the right people.
Exactly. Yeah, no, that's so true. And we can say we as coaches, growth coaches here, we're always looking for that emotional trigger outside of the business, because that's really what drives you. The business is the results that you get from creating whatever it is outside of you that you want to create and making that difference in the world. If everyone had that thought process, the world would be a whole different place. I won't get into any of that. It was funny because I had a conversation with one of my clients last week, and it was around, he's a team, we're building his team up. But he still likes to tell them how to do things. And I said to him, I want you to not tell them how to do it. I want you to say this. So what do you think would be a different way of going about this to get a different result? So I want you to put that level of questioning into your vocabulary. So anyway, he took it on. I spoke to him this week. I said, how did you go? He goes, oh, amazing. I've learned so much from what they think the process could be. And he said, and a couple of things they said would actually help the business. But he said the most important thing was that I got to I see myself empowering that person, because what they did that thinking, they came up with the right answer. He acknowledged them for that. And now that team member in the business now has, a new level of self-confidence around this. And of course, my client was like, that's the gratitude my client was feeling. And he was grinning like the Cheshire Cat, because he had actually found a way to empower his team, not through telling, but through actually asking. So tell me a little bit about, an example of someone, or it doesn't have to be like that, but where you've seen the change and the shift that's given you the gratitude around your business.
Yeah. And one thing I want to add to your story, that's a great story, by the way, but I bet that person that made the difference at work went home and told their spouse about how they did that day. And that's just inspiration to get them to come back and do it again. And that's great. I think of one of my clients and his wife that ran their business together. I won't use his name because he's still out there. But when I came to see him and we were looking at his business results, it looked like he should retire in the next 6 months. I mean, everything was headed this direction, and his attitude was right along there with it. Of course, it's challenging to go through those difficult business times, but we put some goals out there and put some plans in place that got things headed in the right direction. And the neat thing is that when we sit down with our new clients, we have them go through the Get Squared process. But we didn't just have him go through it. We had his spouse go through it as well. So his wife took the paper and she said, oh, I don't need to work on my goals and things. I'm just here doing the support work here. I don't really need to do it. And I said, hey, it's a great exercise. Just do it for me for a favor. Now, I was betting that it was going to have the impact that it did. But when they came back, when I went back to see them the next time, his wife was almost pacing in the front room waiting for me to come in. And I walked in and she was so bubbling over with energy about her goal square. And I thought, wow, if that's not a testament to it, I don't know what is. Well, here's what else is. 6 months, 9 months, 12 months down the road, he's showing growth numbers that I really didn't think we'd get to. I thought, well, we'll give this a shot and see what happens. But he is so excited about the growth and the success that his business has had. That's just one of the parts, though. When I go to see him as a coaching client, I'll walk in and he'll say, hey, down 15 pounds now. Well, that's in his personal department on his goal square. And he'll say, and I'm getting better at playing that guitar.
Oh, that's so great.
And I went and golfed last week and had one of my better rounds. So it's just neat because he's excited and there's that passion that he can bring a full bucket full of energy when he comes to work because he's feeling good from the outside in.
Yeah, that's such a great story, Paul. I love it. I love to see business owners fulfilling on other areas of their life, and having fun with it. Because, I'll talk about adults, anyone above 25, is like, we lose the propensity to have fun because life just gets in the way. We don't jump out of bed like a 3-year-old every morning, do we? And say, wow, look at that. It's raining outside. That's awesome. What can we do? You know what I mean? Like there's always this, life just comes on us more and more and more. So it's great to see that what you're doing through your coaching is actually allowing them to fulfill on other areas of their life, not just in business. So, that's awesome. So what's your future looking like 5 years from now? What's going on for Paul Moehring?
5 years from now, I want to be 7 books in.
Wow.
So when you become an author, you're kind of excited and you have this book, and then all of a sudden you think, oh, wow. It's just like when I first qualified in the company that I was with for the top honor, they called it President's Council. I qualified for President's Council. I got to go on the trip. It was just great. And then towards the end of the trip, you realize, wow, unless you come back here, you're not really a member, are you? So when you author a book, you either are an author or you're just a one-time book writer. So you've got to write at least 3. And the reason I say 7 is that I think 7 will be enough. I could have the rest of my career not write another book, but I've got 7 done. And I think I've got good outlines, easily good outlines for 7. So that's the direction I'm going to go. The first book, though, that I'm allowing myself to write is How to Start a Successful Coaching Business. Because
fantastic. Yeah.
I've got a few more pieces to have in place, but I've tried this method and that method and that method and this method, and each one of them costs money. And I'd like to be able to hone it in for the next person so that they have a smoother path on getting there. So I told myself, hey, you love to write, but you could sit around and write all day, or you could bust out a whole bunch of webinars like you did. And I don't want to just sit around and write. I've got to get some other things going before I get to that page. So that'll be the second book that I write. The most exciting book that I'm going to write, for me anyways, the way that I think about it, is from a sales management point of view and talking about a dog sled and the dogs and the lead dog and comparing that to a sales team. I've already got a contact up in Alaska that's going to let me come up and meet with one of the Iditarod teams to get that very insight. So I'll be able to build in the dogs and the race and all of those things and correlate life in it with it. And
you're going to live the dream.
Analogies, yeah.
You're going to live the
book. Experience it.
That's awesome. Like I'm actually in the middle of a transformational journey right now. So I'll just quickly say, so one of my books that I've got a title for is how to, I haven't quite got the title right, but it's around, how to get married, how to find love and get married in 323 days.
Nice.
Because for the over 60s, for the over 50s, I think I'll do it, right? So that's what happened to me 4 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. And it's a whole way of new being that you have to be around all of this, right? But that's one book. It's totally not business related. I am so passionate about writing that it is not funny. But the transformational journey I'm on at the moment was sort of related to that. It was because with the marriage, second marriage for both of us, and now both have a love for food, and we were both living in Melbourne, which is the food capital of Australia, right? We love food, all the different markets and the eating and all whatever. And I put on about 25 kilos, right? And my husband put on only about 15. And anyway, I didn't like it because I didn't like my wardrobe, everything, nothing was working for me. So I decided, I got invited to a 60th birthday at the beginning of June this year. And I went to see this lady and she was a third of a size. I go, what have you been doing? And so she said, you need to talk to Dean. He's my food scientist coach. So anyway, I talked to Dean and hired Dean as my coach because if we want to get a high level of performance, what do? We hire a coach, right? And so I've been on this protocol since July and lost 20 kilos. Now I want to go another 10. All right. So, but my husband's already at his goal weight. So he's already having bacon for breakfast and eggs and stuff, right? And I sit upstairs here and I whiff the smell and I go, yeah, okay, I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet, right? But it's funny, Paul, around one thing that's happened in the last 7 days. So I've been writing my transformational journey because this is no different to getting results in any other area of your life. It's all around following a protocol with integrity, taking the right actions at the right time, eating at the right time, having your supplements at the right time, eating the right food in the right quantities at the right time. Very similar to business. We could do that with everything, right? And the analogy is there. So I know, and I've seen it before, and you've probably seen it, is that with people wanting to grow their business, taking actions at the right time, in the right quantities, having integrity around everything, it just booms, it goes up, right? So there's a definite book around all of this that I'm penning out at the moment, and I hope to get all that finalized January, February. So I can come out with my transformational journey next year, the before and afters. But funnily enough, this last week, I've been dealing with, because your mindset shifts.
Yes.
And even though, I'm very well equipped and that all around your mindset and what causes, downward spiraling and things like that. But prior to this, I was an emotional eater. Put my hand up. I think 75% of people who are overweight are emotional eaters, right? And although I'm not hungry and I got nothing in the fridge I can go and eat anyway, that's, other than vegetables and things, my mind is, when you get some emotional upset in your life, you're not going for food. So what are you going for? And the data paths in my brain at 20 kilos down hasn't actually formulated a new avenue of what I'm taking on in that respect. So I'm grappling around that at the moment, around what is that new way of being for me, and what is that new way that I'm having to bring in to my transformed life, right? So it's very exciting, and so that's sort of where I'm at the moment from a transformational. So I'm living the dream as well. You're going to be doing that in Alaska with your dogs and everything else. I think that's perfect. You're going to get another best-selling book.
Great. Well, one thing, wouldn't it be neat if you could transfer the emotional eating and put it into something like playing the piano? Just like that. I'm going to change it to this, and all of a sudden you become a concert pianist. Wouldn't it be nice if you could do it? If it was that simple to trick our minds into it.
Oh yeah, like I am a flautist early on. Yeah, I do. I'm very musically minded, and I have thought about taking that back up again, but because I've already done it before, I want a different instrument. So I'm thinking saxophone at the moment.
There you go.
But I like it. I like your thinking, Paul. Food for thought there. Yeah. So look, last question I want to ask you today. All right. So the G factor is a unique set of skills, experiences, disciplines that give you the edge in business success. So, when you look back at where you've come from and everything that you've done today, what's the one discipline that you believe has been your most important success? Like, what's your G factor?
Well, mine is not as simple as that term, although I know there's a lot that's wrapped up in the G factor. I think focus is a big one. And then building on that focus is, once you get a plan in place, taking action and executing. So many times people get a plan in place, they're all excited about it, and the next day nothing happens. And the next day nothing happens. And now they're building up a streak of losses, and they forget where they were going to go in the first place. Yeah. So something to light that passion or that fire, to get that focus going, and then taking action and executing. If you're taking action and executing, day after day after day, the results will then start to give you that momentum. And using those sports analogies, the Cardinals this year, the football team that's here in town, they're 9-2. They've won 9 games and only lost 2. And they're looking like a great football team. When they step out on the field, they're expecting to win. And so they're tough to beat.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way sports go. And sports are really life in fast motion. You watch a baseball game, there's ups, there's down, and at the end there's a winner and there's a loser. Those are the same things that happen to us. But then you go back out for the next game, or you go back out for the next inning. So I really like the way that sports analogies will play into life, because they're really one and the same. One mimics or relates to the other.
Yeah, so focus and just really utilizing your sports analogies actually have given you your G factor for your business success so far. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. And all of my experience in sports is it isn't over till it's over, and you keep going to the final bell or the final minute or the final second.
Yeah, absolutely. And so many people would be resonating with that with you, Paul, for sure. So tell us, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
The best way is to use my difficultly spelled name and go to my website. So just www.moehring.com. There's some information on there. There's a way to get in touch with us. We'll jump on a call with anybody that's looking to enter our orbit, so to speak. If they want to get into one-on-one coaching, or they want a group coaching, or they want coaching for their team. We'll do a lot of team coaching to get teams aligned with the goals and the purpose of the business. But we'll jump on a call, and during that call, it's kind of funny. I really kind of cheat. What I want to do is during that call, maybe it's a half hour, 45 minutes, or an hour, I want to make sure that I can help that business owner with a 95% chance of success. If I think that I've got a 95% chance of succeeding in helping them out, then I'll take them on as a client or look at different options with them.
Yep.
If I don't think it's going to be there, I just don't think it's fair for me to engage with them unless I'm very, very confident I can help them. And in most cases, we've been right on with that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. You know, it's not, I mean, we can help anyone, but it's more about, are they open, coachable, teachable, and do they have a great attitude to win? Because if you're working with someone like that, then you can get them success, and they will benefit from that as well. That's great. Now you also speak, so people can hire you as a speaker too. Paul, tell us a bit about that. Yeah.
Yes, I do love to talk, and I'm sorry if I've dominated part of this podcast. I'm a little bit of a talker. I love to get on stage and move people. I've got a goal, kind of a quiet little goal, to touch 1 million people. And then once I get to 1 million, I'll set that new goal to a higher number, but I want to touch 1 million people. The best way to touch multiples is through your internet exposure or through your stage exposure. Yeah. And so I've got, I guess I'm up to about 17 talks right now that I can do anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes all the way up to an hour, hour and a half. And it just depends on what that business is looking for or what that organization is looking for. But I love to get up on stage, and I use kind of a combination of a little bit of sarcasm or soft humor, and tying that into serious factors and try to really keep that audience there. I am the worst person sitting through a speech. So if that speaker isn't keeping me somewhat entertained and engaged, forget about it. So I use those same factors when I'm trying to build a speech program for one of my clients.
Yeah, I totally understand. And it's a little bit plays into what we said before about having fun with what you're doing. If you're too serious and significant all the time, then you can't hold the audience. So nobody wants to go there for that, right? You want to be educated. If you can walk away with one gem, you're great, But then you want to have a little bit of fun with it. I think people underrate fun in business. I think if we start bringing that back in, then we'll probably find we'll get much better results from ourselves and our teams and everything else. So I totally agree with you there. So, and of course, people can jump on Amazon and buy your book, Get Squared, Goal Setting with Balance. And it's a quick read, an hour and a half with a couple of cups of coffee and distractions or something. Isn't that right? You said?
Absolutely. And there's work to do outside of that, but that's going to get you to that A level for setting goals or advanced level.
Sounds great. Awesome. Well, Paul, I appreciate your time today. Thank you for being on the show. And I realize it's the end of your day, so you're going to be able to just rest up. I've got, being in Australia on the Gold Coast, we've got the whole day ahead of us right now. So thank you so much. This is Glenys Gassman from G Factor Live. I appreciate you being with us today, and I hope you've enjoyed Paul and our discussion around business growth.